Hi guys, tonight we have a super unique adventure. We're going to be staying overnight at the Fort Langley National Historic Site. Let's go explore. Now, Fort Langley was founded in 1827, but the original location was actually about 4 kilometers away from where we are now.
The fort was built by the Hudson Bay Company as a fur trading outpost and became the westmost terminus of the first British route between the west coast and the interior. By 1839, the fur trade had begun to dry up and the original fort was abandoned. The new one was constructed in a location that was better suited to farming and is also the location of the present-day Fort Langley Historic Site. Just 10 months after construction of the new fort, a fire broke out and the new trading post burnt down. But the community bounced back by constructing an even larger fort, which covered 1,400 square meters and housed 15 buildings. The new fort began to thrive and traded in cranberries, pork, and beef, and exported as many as 2,000 barrels of salmon each year throughout the 1850s. But on November 19, 1858, the colony of British Columbia was officially proclaimed, which ended the monopoly that had been granted to the Hudson Bay Company by the British government. As a result, the company faced increased competition and the fort began to decline. Nearby New Westminster was named as the capital of the new colony, and by 1886, the Hudson Bay Company ceased all trading out of Fort Langley. The remaining structures began to decay over the next 75 years until 1955, when Fort Langley was declared a National Historic Park and work began on restoration. Unfortunately, most of the structures were long abandoned and damaged beyond repair. The buildings and fort walls standing here today are recreations, and the only original building is the Trading Post Warehouse, built in 1840, which is among the oldest buildings remaining in British Columbia. This building was used to store furs, food, tools, and other supplies, and is where products were prepared and packaged for transport all over the world. Some of the other reconstructed buildings include the cooperage, which contains all the tools that were required for building the barrels used to ship salmon, cranberries, farm produce, and other goods.
Let's try our hand at making a barrel. Line these up right here. Not too bad. Start of a barrel.
There's the blacksmith shop where you can watch a metalworking demonstration.
We made these to burden shoes. These are a pair of shoes for an ox. Put these on ox hooves, and they have grips that will help them move rough ground. We'll make those, and that will help get your beaver furs from one place to another. Aha! Change color. Good for me. Stick her back in the fire.
And the big house was home to the fort's managers. This building was reconstructed in 1958, exactly 100 years after the colony of British Columbia was first announced on this site. The servants' quarters recreates the living conditions of 3 different HBC employees. And the whole area is surrounded by the bastions and palisades, which were constructed first as protection, even before the houses had been built.
While we're here, we might as well go for the gold. No gold?
Recently, the fort added a new experience called oTENTIK, which allows guests to stay overnight in one of the 5 A-frame cabins inside of Fort Langley's historic walls.
And here's our accommodation for the evening, our very own oTENTIK number 3. Let's take a look inside. Not too bad, fairly spacious little tent. Got a bunk bed up top and a whole bunch of mattresses down below. Probably sleep about 6 people in here. There isn't a kitchen area in here, but there is a fridge if you want to store food. And a little dining room table over there. And that's home for the evening. And even though you're not supposed to prepare food inside the Tentic, there are barbecues available if you want to do some barbecuing.
Guests do have access to come and go if they want to explore the area outside of the fort.
We've got the keys to the fort. Let's go.
You can also take a short walk into the village of Fort Langley and browse some antique shops, or stop for a treat at one of the local restaurants. But one of the coolest parts of the experience is at night after the crowds leave. The buildings themselves are locked, but you're free to explore the grounds, including a walk along the top of the fort's historic walls. Overall, this is a really unique experience and is sure to be a memorable visit for families and kids. As part of our visit, we got to spend the day exploring the Fort Langley Historic Site and watching blacksmithing demonstrations, learning to build a barrel, visiting the farm animals, and trying out some gold panning.
Thanks for checking out Fort Langley with us today. Remember to keep exploring, and if you want to see other National Historic Sites that we've been to, click the link above. Until next time, it's time to exit through the gift shop.